Good morning, everyone. Hope you're staying warm and safe. If you're especially in the New York area, to anyone that went down to Florida for the weekend, I hope you're warm too. It's supposed to be in the 30s in Miami, so good luck to that. New York is in minuses, but we're okay. All right. I want you to travel safe and be safe and stay warm and have right. Okay. Today is the final Perek of Shekalim. Very exciting. Tomorrow we're starting Yuma. One of my favorite Masechtas is Yuma. Very cool. Anyways, I'm just still waking up. Today's shiur is Lilei Nishmas Yeshua Mordechai ben Shepsel. Sorry, Aaron Nachman ben Simcha Kayin, Yeshua Mordechai ben Shepsel, Bracha Sabah Shmuel Lev, and Ben Moshe ben Yosef, Tereshon Seven Aliyah. And Refuah Shlema for Ada Sar Bas Leah, Chana Pesel Bas Yenta, Yisrael ben Rachaleah, Racha Bas Pesel Zelda, Avram Yitzchak ben Risha, and Chaya Bas Dobebela, Refuah Shlema So Shar Chali Yisrael. Here we go. The eighth and final parak of Shekalim, Mishnah Aleph. So we were okay. The, what the heck is happening? We good here? Okay, fine. Technical issues here. Okay, so we discussed yesterday about how to decide if the status of meat or money or animals that were found in the base of Mikdash, in Yerushalayim, or the surrounding areas where they, if you don't know where they came from, what the status is. That was yesterday's parak. Today we're going to talk about what the first three mishnahs in this parak discuss how to decide the status of an item regarding to Tuma and Tahara. Yesterday we spoke about like the value of them. Does the money go to this pot? Does the money go to that pot? Does the animal consider this? The animal consider that? Then we're talking about Tuma and Tahara. So Mishnah Perek Ches Mishnah Aleph Kol Harukin Hanimsayim B'Yerushalayim Tahor. Any saliva found in Yerushalayim is assumed to be tahor, so that if someone came in contact with it, he remains tahor. They didn't decree any tuma on saliva in Yerushalayim so as not to cause unnecessary tuma to any carbonos that might come in contact with someone or something that had touched this saliva. They weren't going to those extreme, those extremes. And um, this was the rule anywhere in Islam except for saliva that was found in the upper marketplace, which is where tummy people would congregate. I was like, show what part of Yerushalayim I'm talking about over here, but no, it was one of the marketplaces in Yerushalayim, and they congregate to avoid the tummy people would congregate there to avoid being around Torah people, so as not to make them tummy. But since there are so many tummy people in the marketplace, then they included that place. The Chachamim included that place in their gezerah of presuming that saliva found there is tummy. Different Rabbi Meir, that's according to Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Yossi disagrees. He says the saliva found in Yerushalayim is also subject to the gezerah that any unknown saliva is tummy. However, Yerushalayim has more lenient rules during the rest of the year, meaning not during the Shlosh Regalim. Sheba'emsa Tameim, saliva found in the middle of the road, which is where most people walk, is assumed to be Tameh, since there are many Tameh people also walking in the streets of Yerushalayim. V'shebestadim Taharim, well, the saliva found on the side of the road is assumed to be Tahar, since Torah people walk off to the side of the road to avoid being contaminated by tummy people. However, during the Shlosh Regalim, when everyone is when the majority population is careful to tahor, shebe'emsa tahorin, the saliva found in the middle of the road is tahor, v'shebestadin tamein, and saliva found on the sides of the road is assumed to be tamei. Since tummy people are very few during the Shlosh Regalim, you tell me the one you're there to begin with, but no, they're there. Mistaken, the stadim, they are the ones to remove themselves to the sides of the road so as to avoid contaminating the Tahar people. And any saliva found there is therefore assumed to be tame. In all other places outside of Yerushalayim, however, saliva found on either the side of the road or in the middle of the road is presumed to be tame, and there's no distinction between the two of them. I guess my question is at what point do they switch from Shlosh Regalim to a regular day of the year? A few days before Yontif, a few days after Yontif, to Ben Azmanim. That's Sarach Ian on that. I'm not sure. Okay. Call Mr. Bays. Call Hakalim. Okay, now we're going to talk about the decree regarding utensils found in Yerushalayim. Call Hakalim on the side of Yerushalayim. All utensils found in Yerushalayim. Derech Yerida Leves Tefillah. If they're on the path leading down toward the mikveh, which tummy items are are toveled in order to become toher. Tamein, they are presumed to be tame, but we assume that they were dropped, being brought down to the mikveh to be toveled. And so therefore they never became toher. But if they are found on the path leading up from the mikveh, tahorin, they are presumed to be toher, but we assume that they were dropped after they were toveled and were brought back from the mikveh. This is because the path used to take utensils down is not the same path used to take them back up. They had two different paths. Obviously, if there was one path, then you can't use this rule. If the kelim were found anywhere else in Yerushalayim, they are presumed to be tahor because the Chachamim did not apply the gezerah of presuming utensils to be tamei in Yerushalayim, unless there's evidence that the utensil had indeed been tamei. Rabbi Meir, this is according to the opinion of Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Yossi argues, he says, Kulan tahor, all utensils found in Yerushalayim are considered tahor, even those found along the path leading down to the mikveh. Chutz min hasal v'hamagreva v'hamerutza v'hameritza hamiyuchad l'kvaros, except for a basket, a rake, and a spade that are designated for digging grapes and other related activities regarding to the mason. The basket is used for transporting bones, the rake for collecting bones that spread out over a large area, and the spade for digging graves. These utensils are assumed to have come in contact with corpses and are therefore tummy. I just wonder, I'm just thinking about this as we leave this Mishnah, like if you have nowadays they dig graves with with heavy machinery, like not a bulldozer, like an excavator or like one of those big trucks with the scoop on the front of it. What's it called? A digger, whatever. They don't usually dig it by hand anymore. So, do you need to tow that digger into the mikveh before you use it to, let's say, build the base of Mikdash? I don't know. Or to build the shul, that you have to tow that digger thingy into the mikveh before you use it to build the construction on the shul. It's a good, I don't know. That's a shadow. Maybe, who knows? This is not a lecha shiur, so let's move on. That's a good question. Mishnah Gimel. Sakin shenimsis be'arba'a asar. If a slaughtering knife, the shochis knife, is found on the 14th of Nisan on Erev Pesach, when the Korban Pesach is supposed to be slaughtered, and its status is unknown, Shochi Bamiyad, one may slaughter his Pesach offering with it immediately, even without toveling it. It's likely that the knife's owner was planning on using his knife to slaughter the Korban Pesach, and therefore we assume that even if the knife had been tummied, he was toveled it on the previous day. It had to be told on the day before. It can't be told the same day. Can't be told the same day. However, if, however, the knife was found on the 13th of Nisan, even though it is possible that the knife was already totaled, shown in a he must immerse it again. He must total it again, because it is possible that the owner was planning on immersing it later that day, but lost it before doing so, and the knife is therefore still tame at that time. The kofitz, but a meat cleaver. If a meat cleaver was found, this one is used to chop large slabs of meat and bones. Bein bezeh shown a matbil. Whether it was found on the 13th or on the 14th, the finder must immerse it again before using it for kabbanos, since it's usher to break the bones of the Pesach offering. Meat cleavers are generally not used for the meat of that offering. We therefore cannot assume that the cleaver was immersed in preparation for the 14th, and although other kabbanos are brought on the 15th, for which the cleaver will probably be used, since it could be immersed later on the 14th to prepare for the 15th, we can't assume when it was found on the 14th that it has already been hoveled. Chal arba salios b'Shabbos. The 14th of Nisan falls on Shabbos, and the cleaver was found on the 14th. And the finder may use it immediately to shech the Korban Pesach, which is slaughtered even on Shabbos. Since a cleaver will be needed for the Chagiga offering, the Korban Chagiga that will be brought on Sunday, and since it's usher to tovel utensils on Shabbos, we assume that the cleaver is already toveled on Friday, since to prepare it for use on Sunday, the first day Yontif. Similarly, if we found on the if it was found on the 15th, then the finder may use it immediately to slaughter his korbanos. We assume that it was tovel before Yontif. Nim says kashua l'sakin. If a meat cleaver was found tied to a knife, raise the kasakin, then it has the same status as the knife. And therefore, if the two kalim were found tied to each other on the 14th, they may both be used immediately without tefillah, since the knife is assumed to have been immersed and the cleaver is tied to it. We can assume that whatever happened to the knife happened to the cleaver as well. Okay, Mishnah Dalet. Paroches and nitmes v'lada tumah. If the curtain hanging in the Beis Hamikdash between the Kodesh and the Kodesh Kachim, if it became tamei by coming in contact with a secondary tumah, that is, meaning let's say a beverage that is tamei and makes the paroches tamei by their abundance. But we are not obligated to remove the curtain from the mikdash from the mikdash, as is the case with items that became tummy according to Torah law. Rather, since the curtain is tummy only according to the chachamim, we may immerse it in a mikveh inside the Beis Hamikdash itself. And then we may immediately return it to the proper place in the mikdash without waiting for nightfall. Unlike an item that became tamei according to Torah law, which may not be brought into the mikdash until after nightfall following its immersion. After its tefillah. The ash nikmas v'avata. Remember, if the paroches became tamei through coming in contact with a avatam of the primary source of tumah, which has the ability to make it tamei even according to Torah law, deraises that we must remove it from its hanging place and total it outside the Beis Hamikdash boundaries. Okay, therefore, that's a denderaisa. And even after it has been immersed, it may still not be brought back into the Beis Hamikdash or to the Chatzar after nightfall. Therefore, we spread the curtain out to dry in the Chel, to the area outside the Azara. It doesn't have the same level of kedusha as the Chatzar itself, as the Azara itself. Vim Haisa Chadash, so if the curtain, if the Paroches that became tummy was new, Shot Chilo so Al Gaka Itztaba, and we spread it out to dry on the roof, overhanging the bench is set up on the Harabias where the curtain is visible from afar. Today Shiur Ha'am Es Malachtan Shehi Na'a. So the people will see its beautiful handiwork because that was done in order to encourage people to donate fine materials for the Paroches in the Mikdash. Um, so, if you think about it, not that many people went into the actual ulam. It was off limits to Kohanim only, right? So, how many people got a chance to actually see the Paroches between the Kachim? Not too many. So here is an odd time where they're able to go out and when the Paroches had to be tumbled and dried publicly, so people could actually see the Paroches from afar, and then before it's brought back in. Mishnah Hey, Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel, Omer B'Shul, Rabbi Shimon ben Haskan. Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel says the name of Rabbi Shimon, the son of the Skan Kohen Gadol. Rabbi Shimon was the son of Rabbi Chananya, the Skan Kohanim, as we mentioned above. Okay. Paroches Avya Tefach. The Paroches was a Tefach thick. Val Shivim Usnaim Nimin Nereges. It was woven using 72 heddle shafts. What's a heddle shaft? So we know that clothing that is woven is you have threads that crisscross each other. It's a shestiv erev. So, so part of the weaving loom, it has a special thread which is known as the heddle shaft, through which the one layer of threads is passed to the other one. No, it's part of the loom. Okay, that's good. Arika Arbaim Amma, that the Paroches' length was 40 Ammas, the Rachba Esim Amma, and its width was 20 Ammas, so that the Paroches would fit the dimensions of the Kodesh, which was 20 Ammas by 40 Ammas. Umishmonim Ushte Ribo Nasis. It was made from 820,000 threads. Ushtayim Osim B'chol Shana. Two new curtains, two new paroches were made each year. Why? Because they have to change it twice a year because they would regularly become blackened from all the smoke of the Ketores that was offered on the Mizbech HaZohav, which was like right in front of the paroches. So they needed to be replaced twice a year. Because each year, because each paroch was so large and heavy, 300 kohanim were needed to tovel it in a mikveh. I didn't know. That's very cool. We got a few more to go. Mishnah Vav. Basar kashi kashim shenitma. The rule for meat of kashi kashim that became tamei, ben ba'avatuma, ben b'vadatuma. Whether it became tamei through contact with a avatuma, primary source of tuma that makes it tamei deraisa, or through contact with a secondary tuma that makes the meat tamei only by a din derabana. Ben b'snim, ben b'chutz. Whether the tumuk contamination occurred inside or outside the azara. The Beis Shammai says, "Hakol yisari b'fnim." In all of these cases, the basar tameh should be burned inside the azara, inside the courtyard, and even though doing so will mean that the meat has to be brought into the courtyard or kept there for longer. Chutz mi shenitma ba'avatuma b'chutz, except for meat that became tummy through contact with a with an avatuma outside the chutzner. Since that meat is tummy deraisa, and it is now outside the the chutzner, we may not bring it inside, rather we burn it outside the chutzner. Bishil says that call you sorry b'chutz. In all of these cases, the basar tame should be burned outside the court, the chutzner, so as not to bring tuma into the grounds of the Beis Hamikdash, or hold it there. Except for meat that became tummy through contact with a secondary tuma, a sheni, inside the chutzner. In this case, the meat is only tummy derabanan, and it's already inside the chutzner. It's not necessary to move it before burning, and the meat should therefore be burned in the chutzner of the Beis Hamikdash. Mishnah Zayin. If Lezer Omer Lezer says Esh and Nitma Avatuma, meat that became tummy through contact with a primary tuma, with an avatuma that makes it tummy on a derisa level. Whether it became tummy inside or outside the chutz of the Beis Hamikdash, Yisari b'chutz should be burned outside the chutzner. So we not bring anything that's tummy deraisa into the chutzner, or you leave it there not long enough to burn. And meat that became tummy through contact with a secondary tuma, the sheni, we can get only tummy derabanan ben b'fnim ben b'chutz, whether it became tummy inside or outside the chutzner. Yisari b'fnim should be burnt inside the chutzner in its proper place. Rabbi Akiva says, "Malcolm to maso sham srifaso." Wherever it became tummy, there it is burned. If it became tummy inside the chutzner, it is burned there. Even if it's a tummy deraisa, if it became tummy outside the chutzner, it's burned there, even if it was only tummy derabana. And the last Mishnah for today, Mishnah Ches, the last Mishnah of this Masechta, Eivare HaTamid, the limbs of the daily Tamid offering, which is an Ola, Nitanim Michasi Kevesh Ulamata Bimarav, are placed temporarily on the lower half of the ramp leading up to the Mizbeach on the western side of the ramp until it is time to take them up to the top of the Mizbeach and throw them onto the fire. The limbs of the Musaf, of the Kar Musaf on Shabbos and Yontif, which are also covered olas, are placed on the lower half of the ramp on the eastern side. And the limbs of the covered Musaf of Rosh Chodesh, Nitarin al Karkav HaMizbeach Ulamala, are placed on the ramp above the ledge of the Mizbeach. Hashkalim v'habikurim ein noagin ala b'fnei habayis. The mitzvah, as we wrap up this Masechta, we're just going to go a little bit of recap. The mitzvah of donating shkalim to the treasury of the Mikdash, as well as the mitzvah of bikurim, the first fruits that are brought in the springtime, apply only when the Beis Hamikdash stands. With the shkalim are used to purchase the kabbanos, if the Mikdash is not standing, and there's no kabbanos to be offered. But bikurim must be brought to the Beis Hamikdash. When there's no Beis Hamikdash, there's no obligation to separate bikurim. Aval meiser dagat, however, the meiser of grain, the meiser behema, and the animal meiser, but bechoros and laws of bechor, no again ben b'fnei habayis, ben shalom b'fnei habayis. They apply whether the mikdash stands as well as when it doesn't stand, meaning that the meiser must still be separated from produce and from animals, and regarding the bechor and meiser animals that can no longer be makriv on mizbeach, then their owners must wait until they develop a blemish, after which they can be slaughtered and eaten. The bechor must still be given to a kohen. So what happens? Hamak the shkalim bikurim. If one designates coins as shekalim or fruit as bikurim at a time when the mikdash is not standing, Hare is a kodesh, and the designated item is hektish, and now you got a problem. Because you can't do anything with that. Shimon says, however, bikurim kodesh. One says that these bikurim are kodesh. They designated some fruit as bikurim, and on kodesh they do not become maftish at all. Mr. Hashem will have the schus to do these halachas with the third base of this Yemenu. Hadja halach v'sech Shekalim. We will see you tomorrow as we begin Yuma. Have a wonderful day.